Next up in our WrestleMania special, we're going to take a look at WCW Backstage Assault, because I love assaulting backstage. This was the least selling wrestling game on the N64 and it sold just a few thousand copies. It's also very interesting because all of the action takes place outside of the standard wrestling ring. Electronic Arts' first WCW game, which boasted the wrestle-tastic title of Mayhem, was distinctly underwhelming. It was, however, notable for one thing. It was the first wrestling video game to allow you to fight backstage in areas such as locker rooms and parking lots. This is a game which does everything possible to undo all the good work that all the other wrestling games on the console had done. WCW Backstage Assault takes a somewhat bizarre step of dispensing with the ring altogether, instead offering a variety of environments dotted around an imaginary wrestling arena. As a concept, it's akin to having a football game without any goalposts in it. It's almost as if everything about Backstage Assault is inherently wrong. While the WWF games had amazed us with its wealth of game modes and options, from ladder matches to Hell in a Cell, and to yes, backstage fights, Backstage Assault is incredibly limited, and even within its own narrow scope, it doesn't do what it sets out to do well. The lack of game modes is almost criminal. Exhibition matches are for 1 or 2 players, a standard 1-player game under the guise of a hardcore challenge, a 7-match survival affair called Hardcore Gauntlet, and your standard create a wrestler mode. Oh yeah, and did I mention this game has one of the longest loading times I've ever seen. This is a cart-based game, so why are these loading screens so long? Not to mention, it's downright impossible to even pin your opponent. I played as Diamond Dallas Page and 10 minutes into the game, I hit my opponent with 3 diamond cutters and I still couldn't get the pin on him. There is no skill involved in this game at all. Graphically, it's hardly a stunner and is nowhere near in the same league as SmackDown or No Mercy. Instead, it's blocky and sluggish, with the supposedly monster wrestlers looking more akin to stickmen. You'll also immediately notice the poor collision detection and how even when your wrestler is performing a move, he'll actually go through the opponent's body. Most of the wrestlers look somewhat like their real life self, but due to the nature of the game they are very limited to wrestling moves, instead relying on hammering your opponent with whatever weapons you can find. Also very bizarre is the fact that if you whip your opponents towards the edge of the screen, they'll actually bounce back at you as if there are imaginary ropes. The commentary from Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan doesn't help matters either, with seemingly random phrases spewing forth from the 2 old-timers which becomes irritating rather than adding to the experience. Other than the commentary, the sound is pretty average. Some generic theme music plays whilst you're in the menus, but other than that, there is no music in-game, but there are brief theme songs if you win the match. The controls are downright horrible, as you'll be instantly pressing your control buttons just to do a move, but to no avail. I've also had many problems when wanting my wrestler to do one thing, but he does something else instead. For example, I constantly find myself trying to pick up a weapon, but my wrestler just ends up pinning the other wrestler instead, all due to this awful control system. Overall, I wouldn't recommend this game to anyone. Even die-hard WCW fans will hate this one, and only collectors wanting complete sets should own this. When the N64 has so many incredible wrestling games, it's a shame to think that EA could publish this title and think that they'd get away with it. But what are your thoughts on this game? Did you enjoy the more arcade style gameplay and mechanics, or did you get stung by buying this awful title? Let me know in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this nostalgia trip, please thumbs up the video. Thanks for watching, and until next time.